putting the client in the chair and injecting them is only part of the skill set. It's not about, are you good at where you place a needle, how many units of Botox, how much filler? The question is, how do you get that person in your chair in the first place? To do decent amounts of injectables, have them look exactly like themselves minus 10 or 15 years, and then have them come back. So there's a whole system behind creating a client, maintaining a client, and having a client come back.
Welcome to the Thought Leader Revolution with Nikki Ballou. Join the revolution. There's never been a better time in history to speak your truth, find your freedom, and make your fortune. Each week, we interview the world's top thought leaders and learn the secrets of how they built a 6 to 7 figure practice. This episode has been brought to you by eCircleacademy.com, the proven system to add 6 to 7 figures a year to your thought leader practice.
Welcome to another exciting episode of the podcast, The Thought Leader Revolution. I'm your host, Nikki Ballou, and boy, do we have an exciting guest lined up for you today. Today's guest is a repeat guest. She is a dear friend and client of mine, and she is about to illuminate a very powerful concept that's going to be extremely valuable to you as a business owner and a thought leader. I am speaking, of course, of none other than the one, the only, the legendary Dr. Dia Berger. Welcome to the show, Dia.
Hey, Nikki. Thank you. You always make a person feel so welcome.
Thank you for coming on the show. It's great to have you here. So, Dia, let's talk a little bit about opportunity cost. The whole concept of an opportunity cost. What is it from your point of view? Why does it matter? And why does it matter in particular to the types of clients you work with in your area of expertise?
So, Nikki, I deal with clients in, I would say the two big groups would be either owners of med spas, either people who start up new, or who have an existing med spa and it's not performing like it should. And the other group that I deal with are physicians and nurses, people becoming injectors. And to a large extent, it's the same kind of scope. The one is just a bigger platform, more people involved, but the principles are the same. And with opportunity cost, it is multifactorial, as you know. I mean, it is, how do they start? How do they operate? What do they do to make it meh or super successful? And I've kind of come across a way through trial and error and a lot of pain that makes these businesses run multiple millions a year. Yep. And I find that 90% of med spas still run in a method that doesn't work. And what it comes down to the owner is every day that goes by, they're losing money, and not a little bit.
How much? Let's talk about that, because that's a powerful, powerful thing that,
yes,
should focus the mind, as it were, for somebody.
Yes. So if you look at a med spa, so the spas that I build is a boutique spa. So I go for a small staff. It's about 6 staff, and they multitask. There's no sitting around. When I work at the spa, I don't sit. I literally show up, and by the time I go home, I haven't sat down, which is not, the client doesn't feel the rush, but it's a busy place. And I can generate as an injector $4,500 to $6,500 an hour consistently, right? Which means if you take the day and what's booked and you look at the total at the end of the day injected divided by the hours, that's what I can generate. When I deal with injectors who come to me, the stats look as follows. Brand new injectors. I dealt with someone in Toronto earlier this year. It's a nurse. She's been injecting for a year and does $200 an hour, right?
What?
After a year of doing it. And which means she's stuck at that by a year. So that doesn't mean she's a bad injector. The whole system that she's working in isn't optimal. And if I look at more senior people, the first time I started in teaching injectors or optimize injectors in their methods, I actually in one go had 3 at the same time. I had someone who was brand spanking new. He'd never injected before. I had another physician who had been injecting for about 3 years, and he was doing about $500-$600 an hour. And then I had a nurse who had done 2 injection courses over the previous 6 months, but couldn't execute. And this isn't someone with a poor self-esteem. She's absolutely drop-dead gorgeous, beautiful personality, but whatever they taught her doesn't give her the self-confidence to actually pull the trigger. Because putting the client in the chair and injecting them is only part of the skill set, right? It's not about, are you good at where you place a needle, how many units of Botox, how much filler? The question is, how do you get that person in your chair in the first place? And then how do you get them in your chair to do decent amounts of injectables, have them look like they should, which is exactly like themselves minus 10 or 15 years, meaning not look like a freak, and then have them come back, right? So there's a whole system behind creating a client, maintaining a client, and having a client come back, which is, right, marketing, retention, all of that.
Yes. Hold on. The key point is this. What you're saying is that somebody doing this right should be making between $4,500 and $6,000 an hour in revenue. And the question that you are asking people is, are you doing that? And if
Correct.
You're saying there's examples of people doing 200 an hour, 500 an hour, 600 an hour. So 200 is 1/30th of 6,000. So you're saying that every day that these folks don't do this right, the opportunity cost is, in the case of this person, $5,800 an hour times 6. 5,800 an hour times 6 hours a day. So we're being conservative. Is
40,000.
Yeah, that's nuts. A day. That's a day.
A day, right? And if you correct. And I mean, I do my math on how I injected, because I got to a point where I wanted to not work myself to death anymore. So I literally worked 2.5 days a week, right? And in a very, very small town. So people who are in Toronto, where they have, off the top of my head, roughly 5 million people. Calgary, you've got 1.6 million people. Vancouver is 1, right? They've got an unlimited market. I did this in a town with 65,000 people, right? And they would drive long distances to come see me because of the outcomes. But the point being is, when you inject properly, right, that spa makes conservatively 25 to 35,000 a day when the injector is there. If the injector is working part-time, that is 70, 80,000 a week times 4, right? That's 300,000 a month, right? Yeah. That becomes many, many millions from one injector doing it properly. So the lost opportunity, the money thrown away, is literally millions, right? And that's on one injector.
So for one person, it's 3.6 million a year.
Correct.
That you're missing out on. If you got 10 injectors, that's 36 million a year. That's a powerful message. So the opportunity cost, what you're saying to people is, do you realize that you're basically giving up 3.6 million per year per person who is part of your injecting team?
Correct. And that is a half-time injector, right? So if you have 2 of them, because if we stick to, I find the small staffed spas work better. If you lose control of your staff when it starts going past 10. And when you lose control, it's like everything explodes. So if you have a full-time injector, which could be 2 half-timers, right? That is 6 million a year for a spa. And then those injectors are each taking 3 months vacation a year. So their quality of life is very, very, very good.
It's amazing.
Right? Their income is amazing. And I mean, the way I paid myself and how we did it through a group of spas that I advised on is we would do minus cost and a split, right? Which means that injector is taking home 1 to 1.5 million. And that is the spa's net profit on that as well, right? And the same for the pharmaceutical company. It's insane amounts of money that goes to the pharmaceutical company, which is great, right? They said they provide a good product, but for the business, and I mean, Nikki, I've dealt with these, and I still do. I dealt with a spa in Toronto early this year, and it is a true med spa. There's a physician in charge, which makes it a medi spa. The guy's involved enough to know what's going on, and they're stuck at 600,000 per year. And that seems to be the number. And he had been in business 5-8 years, so it's not a baby spa. So the first thing is most of these spas don't make it past year one. I mean, I've been doing this for 20 years, and the man who was my mentor, I remember he said to me, 75 to 80% of these guys don't make it past year one. They close their doors. So the whole foundation of what owners think a med spa should look like is wrong, right? It just doesn't work. And then the 20-25% who do make it past a year get stuck at this 500,000-600,000. I pulled my own quantity sales reports a few days ago, and I broke 600,000 in 2009, right? In a town with 60,000 people, right? Yes. And I didn't even have systems this optimized at that point.
So to pull this out at a macro level for someone who's listening to this, when you're having a conversation with a client or a potential client, the conversation shouldn't just be about how much money you're making now, how much money, do you want to be making, and hey, you can make this much more. The conversation should be, if you keep your business the way it is right now, what is the opportunity cost to you of doing that? Well, if you keep it that way for another year, in your case, not in your case, but in the case of these clients you're talking about, it's $6 million per position, right? So if they have 4 positions, that's $24 million. Like that to me should focus the mind beautifully in your industry. But if someone's listening to this and you're having a conversation with a prospective client, this is the conversation you need to have. You should be asking them, what will happen if your business stays where it is? And you should be ready with data and facts to show them, hey, you're making this much. Really, you ought to be making this much. In 6 months, the delta between those two is this much. Correct. In 12 months, it's this much. In 36 months, it's this much. In your case, it's in the millions. So that's pretty powerful and will immediately focus the mind. But I like the opportunity cost conversation, which we had in our private coaching session with the group. The reason I like it is because it helps someone like you be able to sit in front of somebody and go, hey, do you know you're losing this, throwing away $6 million a day, a year? Did you know that? Listen, in 3 months you threw away. In 2 months you threw away $1 million. In 3 months you threw away $1.5 million. Did you know that? How's that feel? What could you have done with that $1.5 million? And I got to tell you, if it was me, I'd be really uncomfortable that moment, going, damn, I don't want to throw away $1.5 million.
Correct. I mean, that's $500,000 a month. That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
And it's not about being crazy, because the next thing that happens when this conversation comes up is they look at you and they go, so if you're injecting that much, how do your clients look? And my answer to them is, you'd walk past my clients on the street and not know they're being injected, which is the purpose. right? It's not about injecting massive volumes per human and making them look like a freak show. It is about a whole system of efficiency, right? Number one. And I tier them. I have them as tier 1, 2, 3, 4 spas. And a tier 1 spa injector will do 500 an hour, right? A tier 2 will go to, they seem to sit at 1,200 an hour, right? And the moment I start implementing some methods, literally what I'm doing is I am making the team more efficient. And I get them to climb out of their heads, because medical people, I'm one of them, most of them suck at business, right? They're horrible at it. They have a mindset and a character that is taking care of people, which is great. But if you pay your utilities and your taxes, right, the city doesn't care about your humanitarian proclivities, right? So I totally run it like a business. So I don't talk about clinics because nobody's sick, right? And I don't talk about patients because nobody's sick. To me, it is a med spa and clients. So I do a whole mindset change there to get, because I find the injectors are their own worst enemy, right? So there's this disbelief where they're like, you can't possibly do that and have great outcomes. And the answer is you absolutely can. I can show you a picture. I'll find her while we're talking. But it's about being efficient and putting systems and things in place. And I mean, I sit here and I talk to you about this and I'm like, I need to open my own spa again, right? Because of the amount of money that's in there. But I mean, I'm taking this to a different system. I'm going to show this lady whose permission I have to show you.
Wow. That's wild.
Right. So, and she's 10 years apart in age. Not that it took me 10 years to get her there, right? But that is, you wouldn't think that's 10 years older.
No, you'd think that's 15 years younger.
Right. And if you saw this girl on the street, you wouldn't think she is a Botox filler client.
No.
Right. Which is the idea. So it's about, I have very strong opinions about not injecting people that they look like freaks. Right. So you can do a really, really good job. But like you say, opportunity cost is, in the end, you run a business. And we want to make people feel better. And that was the big surprise to me when I started doing this. I felt like I was betraying my career when I first got into cosmetics because it seems frivolous. Until I realized, what you do for people's self-esteem. And they would come back and suddenly their hair's done and they're wearing makeup and she's dressed up and she's gotten a promotion, right? And relationships improve. So quality of life is great.
Yes.
And the work situation for staff is fantastic. The places where I teach people to work are happy places, because if the injector is making a lot of money, so is the business and so is the rest of the team, right? I structure it that way. So to me, it is everyone wins. And how else do you get a team to work together, right? You have to open your arms and spread it, right? But in the end, as a business, the amount of money, this is an unlimited industry.
Yeah.
And I find the mindset very often is that it's a scarcity mindset and they get grabby. And it's not about that. It's about being the best with what you're doing a good job. But if you put the business models and things in place, it is, and I'm going to tell you, the energy vibe inside a spa like that, when I have days where we're doing $5,500 an hour consistently, it's like there's crack cocaine in the air.
My goodness, dear. That's a hell of an analogy. That's a hell of an analogy. So to wrap up and land the plane on this conversation, the most important thing you as a business owner can do when meeting with prospective clients is to really help them see the opportunity cost of taking no action. Because taking no action is what a lot of people do, right? They go into a space where fear stops them. Oh, I don't know. I need to think about it. It's too much money. I got to talk to my wife. I got to whatever. Talk to my partner. I need to think about it. Give me some time. Blah, blah, blah. All of those are fear-based objections. And if a person's really a no, then they're really a no. But if they're just coming from fear, best thing you can do for them is to, with all love, but all directness, help them see the cost of inaction, the cost of doing nothing, the opportunity cost of doing nothing. And you've done it so beautifully inside your business that I think if someone's in your business and they run a med spa and they don't talk to you, they're a fool. They're a fool. They're like throwing money away.
It is throwing money away.
It is. And the reason I wanted you to do this episode was because, yes, I'd like people to know who you are, and I'd like some people to go, oh, okay, great. And I'd like you to be able to get some business from this. But as importantly, I'd like other people to see how simple it can be to have this opportunity cost conversation. It doesn't need to be some big, complicated, multifaceted thing. It's just, you're here, you should be here. And if you stay here, in a month, it'll cost this much. In 6 months, it'll cost this much. In 12 months, it'll cost this much. And in 3 years, it'll cost this much. Do you want to keep paying that price? And that is wonderfully focusing.
It is.
Yeah.
And the other thing, Nikki, is because what you've done there, right, to demonstrate it to people is literally breaking it down into visible pieces for them, right? Because when it's vague and it's like you're losing money, that's one thing. If it is a case of you're losing $500,000 a month, right, that's really smacking you upside the face. And the other thing that has been really beneficial to me, right, during the training things, is to show someone also their return on investment, right? So you ask someone this much, and their return on investment within X amount of time, they've made back that. And then from then on, forever, right, they keep making that back, and it usually grows. So the return on investment combined with opportunity cost and opportunity lost is very, very powerful to demonstrate to someone who's not taking action what it's costing them.
I agree. Really beautifully done, Dia. Thank you so much for coming here and sharing this. So, listener, if you're a med spa owner or you know someone who is, share this episode with them right away. They got to see it. And if you're just a business owner, period, who's looking for a way to be more effective when having sales conversations, and in particular with overcoming fear-based objections, not overcoming, a no, because I'm one of those people who believes if a sincere no should be respected. A sincere no should be respected. But if it's a fear-based no, then you owe it to them and to yourself to take a strong stand and point out the opportunity cost and point out the return on investment, because that can help them get past their fear. And you got to speak to their heart, not to their head. You got to speak to their heart. Like the number 5 million or 6 million a year, that number is going to your head. But what that represents and the loss of that's right here. And that's what will move someone out of fear and into action. Right. I believe that.
Agreed. So do I.
Yeah. Dia, how do people get a hold of you?
They can email me. I'm on LinkedIn, Dr. Dia Berger. And my direct email address is drdr.diaberger@imaformula.com, which is International Med Spa Academy formula.
We're going to make sure we put that in the show notes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming today. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Nikki. It's a joy as always. Great to talk to you.
I agree. You're fabulous. And that wraps up another exciting episode of the podcast, The Thought Leader Revolution. To find out more about today's incredible guest, the one and only Dr. Dia Berger, the absolute master of pointing out opportunity cost of inaction and the benefit of a powerful return on investment of taking action. Go to the show notes, find her email address, get in touch with her, and make sure you share the episode with someone who needs to hear it, and give us a like, give us a rating, give us a review, because that helps us with the algorithm. And the algorithm likes it when people give us likes, ratings, and reviews. And make sure that this gets in front of more people who need it. Until next time, goodbye.
This episode has been brought to you by eCircleAcademy.com, the proven system to add 6 to 7 figures a year to your thought leader practice.